to present an amazing, incredible, dynamic attorney. She is also a representative here in the Jackson area. It is none other than my dear friend, attorney Deborah Hendricks Gibbs. Let's give attorney Gibbs a round of applause. We are so excited to have you with us. And I'm just really excited because now that it's the legislative session, it is awesome to have a representative here with us this evening to share all the going-ons with the laws and the making of laws in the state of Mississippi. So good evening and welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes. Well, before we get started, I'd like to share your bio with our viewing audience. Attorney Deborah Hendricks Gibbs was educated in, it starts with her JD degree. She has a Juris Doctorate degree from Mississippi College School of Law. And her undergraduate degree is in accounting from the University of Southern Miss. My school.
The top.
She is admitted to practice in Mississippi State Courts, U.S. District Courts, the Northern and Southern District of Mississippi, U.S. Court of Appeals, and the Fifth Circuit. Representative Gibbs is also serving on various committees with the legislature. She serves as a vice chairwoman of tourism, Judicial B, Banking and Financial Services, Medicaid, Education, and Ethics. She is also attorney of counsel for Gibbs and Travis, which is where I also serve as a partner. Attorney Gibbs is also, she's got a history working with workers' compensation. She served from August 2010 to February of 2015. In that role, she adjudicated full commission hearings, regulated individuals and group workers' comp self-insurers, promulgated rules and policies regarding workers' compensation law. She conducted compromise settlements, hearings, and requests for lump sum awards. It also required her to help with medical services for injured employees. And she also approved fixed attorney fees and assessed penalties. She also reviewed and approved agency personnel services contracts, reviewed and approved agency annual budget requests, and interviewed and approved candidates for employment. Attorney Gibbs also worked at Gail Lowry's law firm from August 2001 to July 2004. Attorney Gibbs worked with the Mississippi Supreme Court and served as a judicial law clerk with the Honorable James Smith and also in Chancery Court with the Honorable Patricia Wise. In this role, she drafted judicial opinions, researched and analyzed legal issues. Attorney Gibbs also worked with the Mississippi Department of Human Services. She served as the Internal Fraud Administrator, and she also served as the Director of the Accounting and Finance. She planned and directed and coordinated the agency's offices with a staff of 60 employees. She formulated policies and rules to ensure agency compliance with state and federal roles. She served as an instructor at the College of Business at Jackson State University, and she also worked with the Mississippi Power and Light Company. She served as an accountant there. Her professional and community activities include her church, New Hope Baptist Church, the LaFleur Bluff chapter of the Links, Jack and Jill, Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Mississippi Bar Association, Magnolia Bar Association, She's former member of the Board of Trustees for the Jackson-Hines Library System and a graduate of the Leadership Mississippi and graduate of Leadership Jackson. Her honors: Mississippi Bar Lawyers Citizenship Award, State PTA Association Parent of the Year, Mississippi College School of Law Merit-Based Scholar, American Inns of Court Charles Clark Chapter of Public Member, Leadership Service Honoree, Girl Scouts of Greater Mississippi, Metro Jackson Black Lawyers Women's Association Top 10 Legal Trailblazers Award, and also Council of State Government. I present to some and introduce to others our dear guest, Attorney Deborah Hendricks Gibbs. Okay, without further ado, we're going to jump right in and get into our questions. We have had several questions submitted, so I'll start with our very first question. As a woman in the legislature, what would you say is your greatest challenge and your greatest reward?
Well, I would say starting in 2017 in the Mississippi Legislature, my greatest challenge, I think for most, would be learning the rules. Being able to learn the rules and to learn the legislative process. There's a rule book, and it's very detailed, and some people don't know how structured it is, even though it's a fluid place. With anything, if you know the rules, then you can be able to get legislation done and be able to amend on the floor. There's certain protocols you have to do when you're on the floor in order to be recognized. And so I think that would be one of the things. It takes a while to learn the rules. And so you have to be a good listener and be able to read and continue to read. As a matter of fact, we have classes when we start. I was able to go into the speaker's office, and he brought us in, those of us who were new. Also, the Mississippi Legislative Black Caucus would have classes to teach you different things. And it takes time. I was told, and I believe it, every day I learn something new. Every day is something new. So I think the challenge would be is learning the legislative process and being able to learn the rules in order to be effective. My greatest reward would be learning those rules and being able to navigate that system to the point where I've been able to get funding for my community. And I've been able to sponsor and co-sponsor legislation to the point where the leadership had confidence in me to give me the opportunity to be a vice chairperson, which is in a leadership role. So that would be one of my greatest rewards since I've been there.
That is awesome. So if someone came up to you and said that they would like to serve or are interested in the legislative roles, what advice would you give them in preparing? I mean, I've observed the chambers. I think you can come in and observe maybe.
Yes, you can do that. I think that's good. You can also go on the website because you can see the action every day of what's going on. But in the House, sometimes it get kind of noisy. We have 122 members in the House, and there's 52 members in the Senate. And people would jokingly say, we have more going on in the House and the Senate. So it's a very fluid place. People are talking and a lot going on, and you wonder how we keep up with it all, but you're able to do it. But I think watching it is a good thing to do. I know people who major in political science and different areas like that kind of adapt to kind of what's going on as far as policy is concerned. But what I would say is, to me, I would not say anybody can do it. I've heard people say, well, anybody can do it. I kind of disagree with that a little bit because I think besides being passionate and having a need to serve underserved people and being the voice for the voiceless, you need to be educated. And I think you need to have a college degree. I mean, I think when I say that, because you have certain courses that will prepare you in terms of being analytical, being able to read budgets, to be able to read bills. You have to be able to understand the legalese. You have people to teach it to you. A lot of the legislators, as you know, are attorneys. And we have a legislative office that consists of nothing but attorneys who draft our legislation. So I would say education is going to be the first thing, as well as having a passion to do that type of work, being committed to do that kind of work. as well as being a good listener. You have to know when to listen, and you have to know when to be a follower, and when it's your turn to be a leader. And so I think you have a lot of attributes that people need to look into, candidates who want to be in the legislature. It's not, just I just want to be it. You got to have someone that's going to try to be effective, and they really want to serve the people, and they really want to put time into it, into learning their craft to be an effective legislature. And that was one of the things I wanted to do in one of my campaign slogans that I had. I want to be effective and to be able to bring something back to my community. And so they would be proud of the work that I've tried to do while I was there.
And we're very proud of what you do and the way you serve. Hats off to you and your constituents. I'm sure they have the same sentiments that I have expressed. We are very glad that you are there to serve. We are happy that you're there because you are taking care of the interests of women in our community, and we appreciate that.
And I guess I should add, you have to be a people person. You have to like people. We see all kind of people, not only the lobbyists, but we see people from different organizations who come. People are calling us from around the state because they need help, they need assistance, and you get pulled from everywhere. We get emails. I have 2 email accounts, and then I have a mailbox at the Capitol and a mailbox at home. So you got to want to be able to address their needs because people are looking for leaders and they're looking for answers to their problems. So you have to be passionate and want to do that to be totally effective, in my opinion.
That's true. I agree. Well, here's another question that we received. What piqued your interest in politics, and what motivated you to pursue that interest?
Well, I guess I would even say probably as a young child growing up, I didn't know they called it politics. I mean, I've always been one who had a voice for the voiceless, and maybe those who were shy about speaking up. Even growing up in middle school, if I thought something wasn't right at school, I didn't have a problem letting the teachers know. We don't think that's right. I mean, so I didn't have a problem doing that. I didn't know that was politics, but, so I think that, just trying to speak for the underserved, to be a voice for the voiceless, some of the things that I would say that I have a skill set to do.
That's good. That's good. We need people speaking for those that can't speak for themselves. And that kind of mirrors what lawyers do. And, a lot of people say anybody can do it, like you say.
Right.
But I will say the last time I looked at a proposed bill, I think it was like 280 pages. It made me think about when we were in law school and you had to read all of these cases, And so I think that gift of being able to comprehend, as lawyers do, because that's what we're doing all the time, doing legal research. It's really good to have someone there with that legal background that can go through those bills, analyze, review, do extra research, and make sure that the bills are there covering our best interests and representing your constituents in a professional and effective manner.
Right.
Okay, here's the next question. How do you view partisanship in the Mississippi Legislature or in politics in general?
Well, I guess I would view partisanship where it could be good or it could be bad. I mean, I think it depends on the majority's agenda. We have good leaders and we have bad leaders, in terms of what their agenda is and who they're serving. Are they self-serving or are they really trying to serve the people? And I think people can tell the difference in that. And so in the legislature, we would say it's more partisan because we have a majority party that's in office, and the minority sometimes tend not to have their voices heard because they are in the minority. So, you have to compromise and be able to, you want them to compromise and be able to come to the table so that all voices are being heard, not just the minority voices are being heard. So that's why I say it could be a good thing or a bad thing if the majority that's in office is not also being cognizant of the need of others who may be in the minority, and they're not being inclusive so that all of us can be a part of the solution, and that it's not a one-sided solution. It's not one job, one idea fits all. I mean, you want to be able to work together. And I think another piece of that is that we can get frustrated, those of us who are in the legislature, because it may appear that we're not being as effective as we want to be because we're not brought in when decisions are being made because you have the majority making all the decisions. And as you know, we always say 2 heads is better than one. And so that's what I think, that 2 heads are better than one, and they will allow all of us to work together and bring out different ideas and to say how a bill might affect my community. It might be positive for your community, but it might be negative on my community. So that's why I say it depends on, it could be good or bad based on what the agenda is and who's getting the more advantage than the other, and not down the road where you kind of compromise. And that's the difficult part in the legislature.
And I think also we can highlight the democracy of America. I love the fact that we have the legislature because we have folks in place representing us. And there's not a dictatorship where somebody's telling us that this is what is good for our community. We send our representatives that speak on our behalf. And I guess that just concludes the honor of being an American, and having our representatives serve, coming from all over the state.
That's right.
In our behalf.
Right. And that's what we are doing, particularly in committees when bills are coming up. I just left the education committee meeting prior to coming here. And so you have representatives sitting around the room discussing bills, and what our mind is on, how will it affect my constituents? How is it going to affect my school district? How will it affect the children in my area? And my children might not be as wealthy or have a lot based on some other areas of the state. So we have to be able to figure out what effect that's going to be. Again, that's another attribute that you need. You need to be able to be analytical. You need to be able to think futuristic and have a big vision to say, how can that affect my community? How would that affect the state? And be able to think on your feet, because the bills that I saw today was the first time I saw the bills. So I didn't really get the opportunity to digest it all as much as I wanted to in the committee meeting. But now that I have them and they have been passed out of the committee, I'll have another chance to digest it, look at it, and be able to ask questions if I need to, if it comes on the floor for debate. So it's a lot of attributes I think one need to be effective. If you really want to be a good legislator, and I keep saying that because you don't have to do it, but if you want to be a good representation of the people that you serve, you have to work at it. And it's not an 8-to-5 job.
Yeah, it extends way beyond that. In order to make it happen, you probably take work home and have homework.
Yes, you can, and there's still a lot of meetings after the session. There were hearings. The session was at 4:00, but after it was over, it was brief because we're still trying to get our bills out of committee. There was 16 committee meetings going on, and I serve on 5 or 6, so I may have 2 meetings or 3 meetings going on the same day, same time. So I'm rushing from one to the other. So, like I said, it's not an 8-to-5 job at all, particularly when we're in session.
Okay. Well, that brings me to the next question. What is your leadership role in the Mississippi Legislature?
Well, we kind of said a little bit about that earlier. One thing is I am the vice chair of tourism in the House. We have about almost 40 committees, and tourism here in the state of Mississippi is the 4th largest industry in the state. It's behind agriculture and manufacturing and forestry. And then there's tourism. So it is a big industry. They put a lot of money back into the state coffers. And so I have the opportunity, I was appointed by the Speaker of the House to be Vice Chair of Tourism. So one of the things that I'm charged with doing is trying to expand tourism. Maybe it won't be 4th long, maybe it'll be number 3, but to expand with the amount of money that they bring in. And so our job is to try to figure out how to increase tourism in the state. What kind of funding can we do in order to get people from around the world to come to Mississippi? And also to have attractions that those of us who live in Mississippi would like to participate in. And so that's what we're doing, working with the different visitors bureaus and the different destination marketing organizations of how can we increase our visibility. I just introduced a bill recently in my committee meeting that dealt with the Freedom Marker Trails. And what that is to establish a commission so that they would identify the different freedom trails here in Mississippi. You know, Mississippi has a rich history. And we already have a commission for the Blues Trail Commission, and we have a commission for country music. So we hope that we're going to get it passed where we will have a commission to identify the Freedom Trail and markers here in Mississippi and have history on that. So people globally will want to come to Mississippi and to track and to go from place to place and to read the markers and to see the homes and to see the places. So that would increase visitation to Mississippi. People are going to stay in hotels. People are going to eat. People are going to travel. They're going to buy gas. So that's kind of what we look at in terms of how can we increase the traffic of tourism here in the state of Mississippi. So that's one thing that I do. And you mentioned earlier the different committees that I serve on as well in the House.
Well, that is awesome. It's really good to know that you are there in the helm of making that tourism advance and bring folks into Mississippi so that they can see how beautiful our great state is and to bring their money here to help. Yeah. So tourism is important.
It's very important. And one thing I was going to add is that what we're also planning with Visit Jackson in the near future, I hope perhaps next month, is to have a visit with some of the millennials here in Jackson to talk with them in terms of what are some of the attractions that we have that they like here in the metro area, particularly in the capital city. What are some of the attractions they wish we had so that they would stay, people would come to visit. So I wanted to be able to get their input to make sure that we're doing some things that they would like to have and that they would want to come visit versus going to Miami, going to Houston, going to California. What are some of the things that we can do here in Mississippi that would attract others their age to come to Mississippi for and to keep them here to spend their money here in Mississippi. So that should be forthcoming soon too. So you can be as creative, as you want to be as a legislature. You can call meetings and have hearings. Those are some of the things that I like. So again, that's that extra work that you put into it because you really care about your state.
Okay, awesome. So who is your role model? Do you have a role model that comes to mind? And if so, why?
Oh, I don't have to think about that. That would be my mama. I'm just a big baby when it comes to my mama, who's no longer living now. But I was the oldest of 5, and she was an independent woman who raised 5 children pretty much all by herself. And being a mom now with only 2 children, I kind of think of the probably trials and tribulations she had during that time of us growing up, raising 5, by herself without complaining. So I can say to me, she was a loving mother. And it's a blessing to have a loving mother. And she could take nothing and make something out of it.
I love that.
Great stylish. That's what she could have done. And I tease people because I didn't really purchase clothes myself. She did it. And so when she passed in 2008, I had to learn and try to do some of that myself. But she was great at it, great stylist, a very great cook. So it would be my mom. She was my biggest cheerleader. I always felt like I can do whatever I set my mind to. And she pushed all of her children to be the best that they could be. She just wanted us to be productive. And we all were productive. And she was proud of the fact that none of us got in trouble. She said nobody had to go to the police station because she would tell my brothers, if you go, I'm not coming to get you. And that's what she would say.
My parents said the same thing.
And so I think that worked. That scare tactic worked because I'm sure she would have been there, but that scare tactic worked. So I look at her as being determined, persistent. You can do what you set your mind to do. And she was big on being a woman. She was big on identifying people who were women and people who carried themselves as a lady. And so hopefully I'm doing that, for her in terms of how you carry yourself, your character.
Well, you fit that well. I do realize that what she's put in, she got a lot out of it because we are really proud of your role, not just as a colleague, as an attorney, but to be able to serve in the legislature, to represent the whole state of Mississippi, to make sure we move forward. And that's not a small feat. That is major, and we appreciate you. The next question, what would you say are some of your most outstanding achievements in the legislature?
Oh, well, what comes to mind first, since I've been there, one of the highlights was the fact that I was selected as a Toll Fellow. And a Toll Fellow is a program under the Council of State Governments. And it is one of the nation's premier leadership development programs. It's not like any other training program that there is. It's a very intense leadership boot camp for state government officials. And they have about 2,000 applicants a year that will apply, and they only select about 48 people around the world to be a part of it. And I was able to do that, I think, in 2017, maybe during my first term there. And so that was just, that was one of the highlights, being able to be recognized as such based on my previous accolades, my previous education, and what I was doing in the legislature at that time. They pick leaders from all three branches of government are selected. And to be able to go to Kentucky, that's where they have their training. And I graduated out of that program in Las Vegas, Nevada. Wow. And so that's one of the major things. And you get to meet legislators and you get to meet state government officials, from around the nation, so that you have a dialogue with other people of what they're doing and how your role fit with their role and how it all meshed together. So that was one of the greatest things I was able to do. And then they also allowed me to be on a national task force called Healthy States National Task Force. And that was to come up with an initiative of how states can be more healthy. And I was able to work with the Department of Health with a program that they were implementing. And I was able to give them accolades and give them national recognition for doing it was called like a barbershop program where they were getting barbers to talk about high blood pressure and being healthy when they would have men come into the barbershop. And so that was something that they was willing to forecast for them so that people can see the things that we were doing here in Mississippi. And I was recently asked to serve on a international legislative task force as it deals with education, looking at education globally and to see what we need to do here in Mississippi in order to make some changes in terms of how we teach our students and how we can be more productive in terms of teaching our students and in terms of educating our teachers so that we can be on the cutting edge, like others are. So that's one of the great things you get to do as a legislature, also be able to serve on different task forces, meet different people, from around the world, travel in the state to do that again. As I keep saying, it's a job that can keep you going. It's more than just 3 months when the session is in. So I have to be on that task force and agree to do it. And see, I'm doing that on my time when I'm not in the legislature. They'll have us to meet after work for 3 hours to be a part of that program. But I enjoy that to make sure that we here in Mississippi can benefit from some of the things that other people are doing so our children can be on the cutting edge as well.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that you served on the task force for the school district because you do have one of the most amazing honors, which is a Parent of the Year at a school.
Yes.
That, people... That is probably the most honorable opportunities to work with our children, serving. And so when you are saluted for your parenting at the schools, that is, in my opinion, one of the greatest honors, to be recognized at my child's school and then to be the Parent of the Year. That says a lot. So I'm glad you were able to be a part of the task force to help us improve our schools because our children are our future. So that brings us almost to the end, but you also hit on another area. You talked about the various legislative, judicial, and executive branches. Now with you serving in the legislative branch, do you have any other endeavors or thoughts about pursuing other opportunities for our great state?
Well, you had asked me earlier what piqued my interest in terms of being in the legislature or in politics. And I did not think about serving in the legislature. You know, some people say, you know, they can actually say, I want to do this, I want to be the mayor, I want to be, you know, I really didn't do that. I was raising children at the time, and that was my key thing. That's why I was so busy in education, you know, making sure they and their friends got a quality education. So I was really focused on that. But because of my leadership skills, I guess, you know, serving as president of the PTA and working with the teachers and counselors, you know, people saw my interest and my passion as related to education. And my son saw, you know, your children see what you do, you know, and not only what you say. And he was a big force, who thought that I should run for the legislature when that seat became available. He was in college at the time. And I woke up one morning to a long email of why he thought, Mama, now this is your time to go do this. You always talking about education and this and what you're going to do and what we ought to do. So now it is your time to shine, as he would say. So I had a push to go in that direction. And so that's what kind of piqued the interest as far as getting into the legislature. I was always, as I said earlier, involved in speaking out for people, wanting to be able to help the underserved. That's where I really get my joy from, helping people, you know, solve problems and things like that. There has come another vacancy in terms of the circuit court for Hinds County, for circuit court judge. And I have been asked to consider to offer my services there as well. So I am thinking about doing that. I've applied and put my name down to run for that position.
Wow.
I've prayed about it and deliberated about it. You know, I've talked to a lot of family, of course, first, and a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, a lot of former circuit judges, and being an attorney and being a former administrative law judge and now a state representative. I feel that my skill set, you know, is what is needed to serve in that position with distinction as a circuit judge for Hinds County. If I'm afforded to be a judge for Hinds County, then I will continue to do what I've always done in terms of being fair and impartial. I've had that experience as administrative law judge, as I mentioned, in terms of having hearings and settlements and having to be fair and impartial and giving quick resolutions to issues that have come up. So it would be my honor to do that. I'm very happy to serve in the legislature. I love doing what I do. I love serving the underserved. And my motivation in seeking that position and or being in the House of Representatives is to ensure that Hinds County and particularly my community are better places to live. And that's my motivation.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And hats off to you about the pursuit. And right. Just your background is laid out so perfect for you to just go and do that and serve. And for Women for Progress, we love to see women progress and move forward. That's what we're all about. So this is really, really good news. And I'm excited about you being a part of Legal Speaking today so that you can speak out and share and guide us. You know, the legislative part has just been phenomenal. But I like the fact that you just shared just parenting, and just a brief education of what it all entails. And just the thought of you serving on the bench is really, really exciting. Someone that's very knowledgeable of the law and that's already served as a judge, as you say, an administrative judge. I commend you on your pursuit. Godspeed. And Women for Progress will just be glad to add you to, you know, what we do. You've served on Women for Progress and been a part of our organization for lots of years. Right. So congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that. And it means a lot to me to have support from you and the organization and from others in the community. It wasn't an easy decision. But, I didn't have much to lose in doing it, in terms of being in the legislature, still being able to serve, meaning that I can still do my passion. And my passion is serving others. And so I just look forward to the opportunity that has presented itself. And I'm hoping that I would be a role model, because it's not easy to do it. I mean, it's a big job. You have to run for election. You have to get out and tell people your story, those who don't know you. But, you can do all things through Christ Jesus that strengthens you. And so that's one of my favorite verses. And like I said, I prayed about it and thought about it. So in everything that I do, that's what I do. It's not about necessarily what I want to do. It's what the Spirit is leading you to do. And so whatever He has in store for me is for me, whatever that may be. And I'm okay with it, whatever that is. And so I just, and humble about it. I'm offering my service, and hopefully I will continue to be able to serve the people here in my community, Hinds County, and the state of Mississippi. That's my objective.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Awesome, awesome. I am so excited about having you share. And once again, that's what Women for Progress is all about. Legally Speaking is an opportunity for us to highlight women. And hats off to the viewers that are on today. I'm so glad you have joined us to once again salute a leader of our community. I think this brings us to the end of our podcast. But before I depart, I'd like to say thank you to all of our members of Women for Progress. And also say kudos to our president, Miss Willie Jones, who is always busy and making it happen. I call her the Make It Happen lady, because she puts her hand and mind to something and it happens. So Miss Gibbs, Attorney Gibbs, I am just elated that you have spent an hour with us today to share, and just want to commend you on all that you've done and commend you on all that you've got planned in the future.
Thank you so much to you, Attorney Montgomery, and to Women for Progress, and to its president, Willie Jones, for giving me this opportunity. And I really appreciate all the things that the organization is doing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time on Legally Speaking. Good night.